So, in the past couple years, mirrorless cameras have really taken off. The spec sheets are getting crazy. They're offering all sorts of amazing features, all the way up to like 8K 30, and I've heard rumors of future cameras having 8K 60 and that sort of stuff. So, let's talk about why as a video shooter, instead of going for one of the compact mirrorless cameras, I went for the C70 in 2023. As you can see here, I have this Canon C70. It is one of their newer cinema cameras. It might be the newest, I'm not exactly sure. But it operates off of Canon's new RF system. Many of you may be wondering, 2023 with all the offerings that all these mirrorless cameras have in terms of video features and what they can provide both on the photo and video side of things, why would I want to spend my hard-earned money on a cinema camera instead of something like the R5, the R6 Mark II, the R3 even, which is a similar price point and offers great features as well, but also can do like photos and stuff. And there's a few key reasons as to why I went with the EOS C70. A lot of why you would go for a cinema camera is the same reason why a lot of people would go for mirrorless. It's convenience. Convenience in different ways, though. So the biggest things for convenience for me was how it feels. So to me, and this applies to most of Canon's cameras, Canon cameras feel good in the hand. They feel well made, they're very ergonomic, it makes it very easy to use. For this, you've got the side hand grip that just fits right in your hand and it works well. But, like I said, Canon does that well. So, the other convenience things that come with it is something like internal ND filters. So, I have these two buttons that are for my internal ND filters. So now, when you're using something like the R5, the R6, any of these cameras that both do photo and video, even up to the R5C, if you need to use ND filters, which are really important for video work so you can maintain your shutter speed, you'd have to buy one of these thread-on filters. I actually just purchased these just before I got the C70. Kind of a unfortunate timing for an investment. But there are other uses for these. So the convenience factor of a cinema camera is with these built-in ND filters, and it's possibly one of the biggest reasons I chose the C70 over anything else. By a press of a button, I can change from all the way from no stops of ND up to 10 stops of ND. Now, that may not sound like a big deal, but when you're at a shoot and everything's moving fast and you've got to sit there and take your camera, take out this one's a 2 to 5 stop and screw it onto your camera and then take it back off and you're like, oh, I need a darker one. So you take your 6 to 9 and you screw it back on, and in that entire time you're sitting there wasting a couple minutes where you could be getting the shots that you need. Now, there are offerings that are actually newer, like I believe they call it the Peter McKinnon they just came out with one with Polar Pro that it's a lot faster, and that is a wonderful thing. But the convenience of just having 10 stops of ND built into my camera that I could just change to press of a button, one of the biggest reasons that I switched over to a cinema camera for all my video work, except for what you're seeing here because, have to have it to show you. Let's talk about the second thing. And this is one of the biggest things. I had really debated on the R5C because it was a combination. Canon did a really good job combining both a photo camera with the features of a cinema camera. But there was one downfall to it that made me really push for going for the C70. And that is the battery. The battery life on this thing. And this isn't even the biggest battery. The battery on this thing can last like a couple hours. And so when I'm shooting stuff like weddings, which was common for me to be doing in this past year or two, it's just switching batteries all day is not great. Plus I have to have 5 or 6 batteries to get through a full wedding. Whereas with like the C70, I can survive the entire day off of 2, maybe 3 batteries. I don't even know if I need that third one sometimes. I think the last wedding I did, I was able to do it off of 2 batteries, and that was a full 8, I think it was a full 8-hour day. So it's like the batteries are unmatched. And one of the biggest reasons why I decided to go for a larger camera rather than a smaller, more compact camera. Now that might not be a big deal for some of you. For me, it just made my work a little bit faster, made it a little bit easier, not as much interruptions in the day. So it's another convenient thing for going the cinema route. Feature number 3 as to why I bought the C70, and there are other cameras, of course, that share this, but it's the combination of all these things that made me want it. But it has a full-size HDMI. Now, I'm not doing like $10,000, $30,000 commercials for people. I'm not working with a massive crew, so I've never needed an SDI out for any monitors or anything like that. So full-size HDMI actually worked really well for me, just to be able to take my normal HDMI cable for my monitor, plug it into my camera, plug it into the monitor, we're good to go. And unlike where I owned an A7 III before, it has, some of these cameras have micro HDMI, which I despise because they break so easily, the ports break, the cables break, and it's just, to me, it's not a reliable system to run on. But cameras like, currently I'm filming on the EOS R, has the mini HDMI, not as bad, but anytime I get the choice, I'm going to prefer full-size HDMI over any of those. And one of the other big features of this is, there's 2 of them, but there are mini XLR ports. But it allows you to use XLR mics and that sort of stuff just with a different cable. So I can run very high quality audio directly into this, and it records multiple channels, as you can see on the inside. And I've got all my audio controls and here, little dials to adjust any of that. So it makes it really easy. Plus it has an internal mic that lets me just use it as essentially a scratch track. So I can have something for reference just to line up audio, and that's mainly what I use that for. But I do have those XLR options available, as well as having just a normal 3.5 audio jack. This camera offers all the audio options that I need, as well as, even a headphone jack, so I can plug in my headphones, monitor my audio straight out of the camera, which is super nice and super convenient. And what's the other reason that I went with this? Well, to me, a cinema camera offers something that I feel like a lot of the mirrorless don't offer quite yet, and it's future-proofing. So now once you get into some of them, I do believe they have that quality that is going to future-proof you for a while, but in combination with all the other features, I believe this will take me farther than one of those would have. So I've got my RAW that I can do. They added that in an update. I currently shoot in 10-bit C-Log 2, which is phenomenal. It looks beautiful, it's easy to color grade, and it just gives me so much room to move around. Plus, I want to say it's 16 stops of dynamic range in this camera, which is insane. It offers up to 4K 120, and I think one of the biggest things as to why I love this camera and why I use it, these are dual SD card slots. So it has a dual card slot, but unlike the R5, it's not a CF Express Type B, it's just 2 SDs, which if you're looking for something that you want this kind of like cinema quality, cinema features, the C70 is great about that, because also you get a run off of SD cards, which are a lot cheaper than CF Express. And even recently, CF Express have been kind of hard to get a hold of, which makes the dual SD card slots a lot more enticing. So that's just a couple reasons as to why I really personally love the C70 and why I decided to pick up one this year. Now I know here, hopefully in the next year or so, we'll be hearing about like stuff like the R5 Mark II. Maybe I'll be able to pick up one of those as a good hybrid camera, and so I'm not always having to take this out when I want to shoot video, not always having to take my EOS R out when I want to shoot photo, and I can just take one camera for like travel or whatever. But I do believe this was a worthwhile investment. If you guys have any questions about this camera, I'm willing to make more videos about it. I'm still learning a lot about it, but from what I've used of it, it works great for professional stuff. It works great for hobby stuff. I've made a couple of different reels and videos using it, and it's just, honestly, it's a fun camera to use. And I think that's the most important thing when we're doing this is we gotta enjoy what we're doing and we gotta have fun with it. This camera makes it a lot more fun for me rather than having to fight with some of the more restrictive features that are in mirrorless cameras, as opposed to having a full-size cinema camera. And even still, it has its own downsides, but the goods far outweigh the bads. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, drop a like, comment anything you'd like to know about the C70, and I will be more than happy to answer it. And I will see you guys later.